I'm on a new level. I'm on a new level.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new edition of Sports Medley. It's your boy Don Lane coming at you. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to everybody who's already been given so much support. Definitely appreciate all the love, you guys. And each week, I know I missed last week, but I'm going to keep bringing you new videos. So if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And don't be afraid to share, comment, whatever. I always like to hear new opinions and new thoughts from all my new followers and viewers out there. So let's go ahead and get things started with today's show. So apparently Dak Prescott has turned down a $30 million offer that would make him like the 7th highest quarterback in salary before the NFL 2019 season. I don't get it. I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, but I wouldn't put him even in the top 10. And for him to turn down that money, clearly he thinks he's better than what he really is. I get he's got a lot of fourth quarter comebacks. He's got a high winning percentage, rookie of the year, all those accolades. But at the same time, he had a lot of help. Got a great offensive line, good young defense. And then Zeke, not to mention, definitely lightens the load a little bit. I mean, look at last season. He didn't really come on until he got Amari Cooper. Before then, he was very turnover prone. Check down, check down, check down. Wasn't trying to take any deep threats. Granted, the receiving core before Amari Cooper wasn't the best either, so it's kind of hard to say what he could have been doing all along. But once Amari got there, it's like something flipped in his head and he became this really good quarterback all of a sudden. So I wonder if him turning that contract down, that the Cowboys are going to just move that more towards trying to re-sign Zeke, because Zeke has already said, I'm not playing unless you give me a new contract. And they're very, very dead set on the fact that he's willing to sit out however long it takes for him to get that contract. If it turns into another Le'Veon Bell situation, then we won't see Zeke this year in football at all. So I think that money should go more towards Zeke than it would to Dak, especially if Dak is turning down $30 million a year. I feel like that's very, very generous for his skill set, especially with his up and down season last year. But at the same time, again, like I said in one of my former videos, Zeke hasn't really shown that he can have that maturity level to, stay out of off-field trouble and just focus on football, because the guy's a great talent, top back in the league. Granted, he's got the best offensive line, but I mean, I feel like if anybody deserved that money, I would lead towards Zeke, or go ahead and save it to allocate to someone else completely who is off the grid right now. But that's Jerry for you. Who knows? Man, what happened to Antonio Brown? This guy was top talent in Pittsburgh. Don't get me wrong, he's still a great receiver. He's not the best in the league anymore. I think that's between DeAndre Hopkins and Julio now, just in my opinion. He definitely still is top 5. I don't know if he's still going to be top 5 playing in Oakland, but we'll see if he even plays, that is, because of this whole helmet fiasco. Evidently, he's come out and said, if you don't let me play with my helmet from last year or from where I was using all these years, then I'm done with football. I can retire. I'm good with it. Like, no problem. So I don't think that the NFL is going to budge on that, because they're pretty set in their rules. Evidently, it's a approved model. It's just an outdated version of it. So that's why the NFL is letting them know, like, hey, you can't play with that. You have to play with the newer version, the newer models that are, certified for the league now with the CTE and the concussions and everything else that goes in with the head injuries for football nowadays. And apparently the reason why Antonio Brown has so much problem with the new helmet is because it messes with his vision, so he can't see right, which I get, because that's going to affect his play in the field, which is going to also result in him, being the type of player that he's supposed to be, or the player that the Raiders think that they traded for. But at the same time, it's like Tom Brady, who many are going to say he's the GOAT. I personally think he is. But they wouldn't even allow him to use his helmet last year. So I feel like if Tom Brady can't get by with one, then Antonio Brown is just without even any kind of luck at all trying to get that argument. I have to give respect and props to the Mets for an incredible run since the trade deadline. I think they went 9-2, or they currently are 9-2 since the trade deadline, and currently sit only one game back from the wild card spot, when like a month ago they weren't even in the running and were trying to sell all their good players. All of a sudden, news breaks they trade for Marcus Stroman. People are losing their minds. Like, why are we doing this? Why did they get him? They're not even in talk of doing anything this season, and here we are. Now, it's still going to be a tough road just because the National League has some really good teams to get past, like the Dodgers. Although the Dodgers haven't been playing as good as of late, but they have such a great lead, they can really coast at this point without having any kind of threat from anybody else in their division. And then, of course, the Cubs have come on really strong as of late, too. Not to mention the Braves and the Nationals are both right at the top of their division. So it's going to be a tight race to watch. Like, all four of those teams, the Phillies, Mets, Nats, and Braves, are all like within a game or two of each other for first. I think the Braves might have a little bit bigger of a lead than that, but nothing that's just out of reach at this point where anybody can go on a run, clearly, like the Mets have. So props to the Mets. Still not a fan. You see where my allegiances lie. But respect is earned and respect is due. So I haven't done a video since the trade deadline, and I have to at least touch on this subject because everybody was losing their minds on Twitter when this was struck. Go ahead and give the Astros the World Series now and yada, yada, yada. Don't get me wrong, huge move for Houston to add a solid rotation starter in Zach Greinke. But the thing about it is that he's not an ace now because you got Verlander, you got Cole, and Greinke is their third starter with that rotation. I get it, like it's a nasty lineup or a nasty rotation you have to go through because two of those guys are pitching Cy Young caliber seasons. But pitching only gets you so far. You still have to have offense. I get it. Houston has a great offense as well, but there's a lot of baseball left, and October is a different animal. So the fact that people were just throwing in the towel saying that the Astros are locked in their World Series, this, that, and the third, stop it. Stop it. There's plenty of baseball left. Anything can happen. I mean, just look at the 97 or 99 World Series, whatever it was, when the Braves had Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz, and the Yankees swept them. So that's all I have to say about that. Wow, what a season it has been for the Yankees. I have loved watching this team play this season. I've gotten to go see them play in person. It was fantastic. And the train just keeps rolling. Next man up, doesn't matter. Injury, next guy steps up, performs like the guy never even left the lineup. But who would have thought if I told you at the beginning of the season that Giancarlo Stanton wouldn't play more than 20 games this season, Severino hasn't pitched at all this season, Dellin Betances hasn't played at all this season, that the Yankees would be in first place, and not just first place, but the best record in the American League at this point in August. Nobody would have said, oh yeah, I can see that. Nobody would have thought that the Yankees would be where they are with 26 people on the injury list sometime this season. It's remarkable of how good the coaching, the transition, the process has been with just this next step up, next man up mentality. Guys like Mike Tauchman, Gio Urshela are shining because they're given the opportunity to have an everyday role. DJ LeMahieu has been an absolute sensation for us at second base, and everybody was scratching their heads of how or why the Yankees signed him with Didi, Glaber, Miggy, and everybody else we already had in the roster. But I can tell you for one that DJ has outplayed every one of them. The guy's hitting well over 300. He's pushing for a batting title for the first player to ever do it in the National League and American League. And everybody was saying that he could only hit in Colorado, but here he is just absolutely killing the ball. And I think he's got his career high in home runs. So that's awesome to see. And we're only in August. Like, we still have another 2 months left in the season. This is great to see, right? And the pitching hasn't been the best, I'll be honest. I was a little disappointed that they didn't make any kind of move to get a pitcher or even like anything at the trade deadline. But at the same time, I understand not wanting to trade away your farm for a rental, and that's pretty much what the offers were. And from what I've heard, that the offers were pretty astronomical, or the requests rather. Gleyber Torres is a star. He's a two-time All-Star already in his career. He's hit over 20 home runs in his first 2 seasons, every season. And he looks to be a future staple point for the Yankees. And apparently he was part of every single trade request. So, yeah, I wouldn't trade him either. Not for anybody who's anyone. Not anybody. Not anybody's worth that trade, in my opinion. Gleyber Torres staying put in the Yankees was clear-cut priority number 1. And the fact that we're about to get Deli, we're about to get Sevi, and hopefully Stanton comes back soon, will pretty much be like a trade deadline acquisition. So I get where Cashman's coming from. I still wish that we would have made a little bit more of an aggressive move, but I got faith. Go Yanks. All right, so that's going to be doing it this week, you guys. Once again, thanks so much for coming in and checking it out. Coming soon, I'm actually going to be releasing an actual podcast with a good friend of mine. We're going to be talking about sports and anything else that just comes to mind. Pretty freestyle here, so that should be a lot of fun. When that comes down, I'll be sure to let you guys know about that, putting the links below. Not quite out yet, but keep a lookout for it in the future. In the meantime, this has been Don Lane. You've watched Sports Medley. Peace.